I don't mean to be like blunt, but like, yeah, it is.
So I mean, sometimes the harshest reality is reality, right? And no matter what you think of it. So, how many people, if you're in the chat, hit ones if you have a. How many people have a negative friend? Like, how many people have a negative friend, right? Like, that's kind of like the basics, right? So, what about you, crypto brats? What's up, crypto brats? Anybody dealing with a negative person that you're just every single day you kind of talk and they're just, when you do talk to them, they're a little bit negative and they just kind of like, the downers, we call them, right? Moses, what's up, man? So that's kind of where we're focusing, right? So, how do you handle those people, Joe? What's the thing that you're doing? What's up, Wino?
Well, I think the first step for anybody is we got to get down to the basics, which is like, being able to your own self-talk, like identify if you're that person first, because you can't go point out other people's flaws. If on the back end you're driving your car, like I always have an attitude check once a day, and it's every morning when I take my daughter to school. Okay, and I can tell if I have a bad attitude or a good attitude. If someone cuts me off or makes a stupid move on the road, and if I sit there going, "You dumb mother," not beeping the horn, guess who's got a bad attitude? Me. On the other hand, if I like laugh and be like, "Ha, what an idiot," I can tell that I have a great attitude that day. So, one is to check up from the neck up for yourself. Like, what are you telling yourself? What are the voices going on in your head? What do they say? Identify that. And if you are talking, we're usually our worst enemies. Like, we talk down to ourselves all the time. We look in the mirror, we look at our bank accounts, we look at our job, we look at our relationships, and all we do is point out negatives. But that's like the formula why people that are in debt always stay in debt, because they're always surrounded by things that remind them about debt. The credit card bills coming in the mail, the not having enough food for groceries, birthdays, Christmas, holiday barbecues. So I would first just say check yourself up from the neck up. There's a great, if you Google I don't know if you guys can hear me well. If you Google the 5 levels of self-talk, like real short document, 4-minute read, you'll be able to identify what stage in self-talk that you're in. But when I do come across these people, I'm not rude, I'm not arrogant, I'm just not going to listen to them, right? Like you don't take advice from people that are broke telling you how to get rich. You don't let someone who's been divorced multiple times have any input in your relationship. So you can sit there and engage in the conversations. Don't try to fight it. Just don't absorb it. Is what I would say.
What's the name of that? 5 levels of what?
5 levels of self-talk. If you Google it, it should be the first Word document that comes up on the Google page. It's a Word document. It's about a page and a half long. And that's really out of all the years of building sales teams, running a direct sales company. When a new employee would come in, like I had to check their gauges and how they talk to themselves, because me, yeah, I can influence you. You could be on here right now, listen to us and be good, but the second you turn this off and you go back to your old habits, like you're just gonna be beating yourself up again. So the first thing I would identify with people is how are you talking to yourself?
All right. Let me do. Now we have where this is telling me I have multiple guests. I'm trying to do a multiple guest here, and what it's telling me is that as I go for the host, right? I got you. Okay, let me get an invite here. Let me see if I can find somebody real quick. It's telling me I have to end the host and do multi.
That's all right. I don't have anyone viewing on my TikTok anyway, so.
No, you're good. You're good. Hold on. No, we just have to get it set up to where. Hold on. For some reason it's offline, but let me see if I can get her here.
Has anyone got big plans for this weekend? Anyone going to lake houses, go boating, anything? Riding horses?
Horse day. Says you're offline. Hold on one sec.
You guys just be safe out there. Make good decisions this weekend. Don't think you're invincible to the road. The law enforcement. DUI checkpoints will be up.
DUI dates. So I like the self talk. A lot of times I think a lot of people just don't get on the self talk because I think they just um, maybe not understand what it is. I think everyone does kind of self talk to themselves. I just think they don't understand what how to use it as a tool versus more like venting, right? I think when people self talk, they use it as venting versus an actual like process in getting better at what you're doing, which is kind of like um, the difference between you know successful people are very small habits, and a lot of times it's weird because most people do what successful people do, they just don't understand how to execute what they're doing, right? And that's kind of it is. Yo, JJ, what's up, man?
There's a book by Urban Meyer. I'm not a huge football fan, but it was a great book. He's a great coach, and he has a formula. And it's E plus R equals O. So, meaning you're going to come across E, which is our experiences, which we can't really control those things, right? Like, things are going to happen to us we can't control. Plus R is your response, and a lot of us take that R and we react to it, which means it's emotional. But the bigger, the bigger the E, the bigger the R you need to have, which equals O. O being the outcome. So what sometimes we think we don't have control over certain things in our life, but what we do control every time is how we respond to the things that are happening to us. And remember, there's responding, which is logical, and there's reacting, which is emotional. But you have full control over the outcome
Full
of any
control.
situation.
All right, let me do this. So, Joe, join the live, and then request to jump back in. And let me see if I can get
TikTok,
a multi.
So leave and come back?
Yeah, leave and come back into my live, and then request to be a guest. Let me see if I can.
So don't do co-host.
Don't do co-host because it's blocking the additionals.
So I do multi-guest.
Yes, yes. All right, let's get some people in here. So let's talk about a little bit a request there, Marcy, if you hear me. Okay, I'm going to invite. Did you get that invite? Hebe, what up, Hebe? Hebe in the house. All right, let me find Joe up in here. Hebe. Crushing me with that noise. Hebe. Let me get you. Turn off Marcy's microphone. Let me find Joe up in here. I'll let Joe come back in. Marcy, can you hear me?
Yes, can you hear me?
I can hear you. So what we're doing now is we are focusing on getting Joe back in here, but we're talking about toxicity, right? And the thing about toxicity, it's a crazy thing when it comes to business, um, life. Let me see if Joe's back up in here. Top viewers, John Reynolds. What up, man? Let me see here. So in toxicity, right? Now I know it's a little bit. So toxicity, right? And that's when you get around people, and we touch base a little bit about generational trauma, a little bit about like self talk, and what I'm interested in is like you do a lot of astrology, right?
Mm-hmm.
So what would be the well, I guess the question would be because what I always think about is this, right? Like there's when you're a person who is who things are very easy to do, right? Like I'm a very mathematical person. I'm very like forward. I'm very into like leading. I'm very into do it first and just do it and show it. And there's different levels of people. And in astrology, right, a lot of times it comes down to your personality or your birth chart or what type of person you are. So does that take into account where people say, like for instance, we're going over a thing called self-talk, right? Which is where self-talk is where you talk to yourself, you teach yourself, you motivate yourself, and you create the ability to make yourself better. So in astrology, what would be the signs that wouldn't be able to like do self-talk or need to be aware that they need to be more understanding of that what their limitations are? You know what I'm saying?
Well, I feel like, it's not like some signs can't do self talk. I think everybody is able to have self talk. I think there are more people that can tap in their subconscious than others. Like, in astrology, there's 12 signs, 12 houses. So, usually in astrology, the last sign is the most reflective sign because that's the sign before the new cycle will start. So, in terms of your question, I would feel like probably the signs closer to the end of the cycle in astrology are able to have more self talk because they're able to have more knowledge than opposed to the earlier signs who are just kind of figuring things out. But I don't know, I think every sign can have self talk. I mean, that's kind of something that everybody can learn.
All right. So you think self-talk is anyone can have self-talk even if they're having a little bit of difference on what how they feel, right? So it doesn't matter about your sign whether you're more of a leader, more of a um, introvert, extrovert, anything like that. You think basically it's all. You think everybody can have self-talk.
Yeah, I mean, self talk to your definition is being able to talk to yourself and motivate yourself and kind of rely on the self. Is that what you're referring to?
Okay. So can you join the live, bro? Trying to get Joe back on here.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I can do you an invitation. Let me see what happened to Joe here. So I want to. So if you become a viewer, I can invite you. Yeah, yeah. So view the live. So like go to my TikTok channel, and then it should say where I'm live. Click on the live. Lucky, what up, Lucky? Yeah, because PCs have limitate. They have weird setups, so we should be able to get it going. So, so you telling me? So astrologically, everyone could do self talk. Um, More aware of what it is. Ah, there we go. So let me invite you. Give you a guest. Invitation sent. There we go. You know, you got that. There you are, man. No, I just see your nice little picture. Log in for full live experience. Hold on, not now. I see you on here though. Talk. Let me see if I hear you. All right. All right.
Now?
There we go. We can hear you, Joe.
I just can't see myself, and I really like looking at myself.
Like to take a look at yourself, take a gander.
Here we go.
You have to put your video on, man. Just turn your little camera on. Click on your little thing that's down below. There'll be a little picture where it says there's a little like here. Let me see. There you go. There you go. There you go, handsome. Look at that. Self-talk, baby. Self-talk. So Marcy, what you're saying is everybody is capable of self-talk, no matter what the sign is. It wouldn't be harder for one person to do it or another. Like when you think about negativity and stuff like. So give me some signs. Like give me some people. What up, Ray Gamer? What up, Gamer? So what is? I'm kind of like interested right now in where we're headed towards the astrology side. I mean, aren't we headed towards an area where people should be a little more positive?
Like positive in terms of just like about themselves, about the world, like.
I mean, I feel like we're heading into an era where there's evolutional change, right? So I feel like we're getting to the point where we have everything going in a way of um, where we at with what decade are we in right now? Are we in Capricorn and Aquarius? What are we in?
Well, what just started last year, which is a pretty big like astrological transition, is the planet Pluto, which out of all the signs, really Pluto's the slowest moving, even in astrology. Like Pluto's the furthest planet from everything. It's not even considered a planet no more. But in terms of astrology, Pluto takes about like 20 years, 25 years to move into a different sign. So since 2008, Pluto has been in Capricorn, and now this past year, and now officially this year, it will move into Aquarius, which kind of makes sense to how the society is going. Aquarius is the sign of rebellion, revolution, looking at things from a different view. And I think in terms of right now, especially with technology, all the advancements that are happening right now, it does kind of coincide and make sense with what's going on astrologically speaking. And I think this next 20 years is going to be a big expansion of not only technology but how people think. Especially like a platform like TikTok where you can talk to people from all over the world, as opposed to back then when TV was just what was programmed to you, and now we have the option to choose our own programming and what we want to watch and what we want to listen to. So I think that's going to expand the minds of a lot of people, and cause a lot of people to think really differently, because now there's so many outlets to get information instead of just what the government kind of has been placed on people. And I think now, even too, I think a lot of people are looking at our government now in a kind of like dishonest way, and that's what happens in Pluto. Pluto is a sign of transformation, but it's also the sign of destruction and also regeneration. So, and that explains anything. When you're really obsessed with something, you can be really passionate about it, but it can also lead to destruction or, energy. And especially with Pluto and Capricorn, what we just left, a lot of people saw, election rigging, and a lot of people are not trusting the people that we have placed all of our kind of trust in, especially in the government. So now everybody's kind of looking for themselves. So I feel like those next 20 years, I mean, there's so much that can happen, but even in TikTok, like in terms of my timeline, like I'm watching a lot of videos, like not conspiracy videos, but just videos about, hey, this is what's really happening. Before then we weren't able to access this information, but now we do, which is why I think also they're trying to ban TikTok for that same reason.
So that's kind of where we're like. So this is where I feel like it's the time of um, self self awareness, right? It is where people are starting to wake up, or whatever you want to say. It's just becoming more aware that things need to be done, and this is the time where people are feeling like they need to pay attention, and this is why I was talking to Joe like a little bit about, it's time to start where, you know, knowledge is power, right? Information on how to look at something correctly, right? What we're talking about is, toxicity in your life, right? And you have to understand that, I'm wondering how um, as more people pay attention to, more people are listening now, right? So when you start to listen to more things, you're going to come across more toxicity. You're going to come across more discussions. You're going to come across more opinions. You're going to come across. I think we're in that era of, it was kind of interesting because 4 years ago we had an election, and when I was talking to people about the election, like I'm not red or blue, I don't really care, but I was talking about how they looked at, their news feeds, right, and everyone believed a meme, and I'm like, well, memes aren't news, and you have to do research, and I feel like everybody was just, couldn't understand that they have to get knowledge to see what's really real. And now we're moving into this new generation where we're seeing this new election, and I'm seeing everybody who was talking about the other side of the election now starting to come back over, right? So even Cardi B, who was saying, this guy, this guy, this guy, she was like, we all got, she said we all got fooled or whatever, we all got cheated, but she's the one who went out there and didn't have any information. So now I feel like we're going to have a lot more ability to communicate. And that's why I was talking to Joe, like, dealing with toxicity, right? You're going to be doing all these new things in your life, and you're going to be doing new opinions. And what he's talking about is this weekend, he bring up a good point. You're going to be around friends and family, and everyone's going to be talking about something. And you're going to come across people that are going to normally be toxic. And sometimes in life, which is a harsh thing to do, but you always hear about, I always think about like people who get really wealthy, do really well, and then their family members come out and they say, oh, he hasn't talked to me in 10 years. And I'm like, well, probably a reason for that because most people don't realize that they're negative or toxic, and they're just not something you want in your life. So Joe, you were talking about what the book of self talk, right?
There's a document out there, self-talk, but I was referring to the law of association. For example, like I just bought a big old house, right? And my older sister, growing up, she told me I was going to be a garbage truck driver. I'm a middle child, and I was a problem child. I got in trouble a lot. Part of my goal was to like pass her up, income wise, faster, double, triple it. She says, "Oh, you're so lucky. You have this big house." It was like, man, it wasn't luck. It was 11 years of building a business. Like I put a lot into that. So people they don't see what you really went through to get what you have. They just think it's luck.
You're so lucky you worked so many years, bro. You're lucky. You're lucky you did all that hard work, brother. But that's the kind of like the funniest thing to me is that we always come down to a session where it's always about when somebody actually gets something. Why is it luck? Right. That's kind of like the weirdest thing that you said that because I've never really noticed that until you said it right now, and it's like, why is it always luck? Like, is that just a mindset that I mean, that's probably something we should do a whole thing on. Is like, why inside your mind do you think you need to get lucky? Like
Well,
every time you,
we've been programmed. Like think about the lottery. You win the lottery, you're lucky. You make a bet and you win it, you got lucky. It's just we get programmed into like hope. Let's hope this works out. So luck just distilled into us. I don't really believe in luck. I mean, there's a little luck to some things, but I think hard work and preparation and timing is a formula to itself.
well, even luck. What is luck? And now that I kind of focused on it, it's kind of like
Probability.
probability. Like it's the law of average. It's something that if something's going to happen. Is that the luck? Right? Luck of the Irish, luck of this. Like now, I will say I'm a big believer um in energy. I'm a big believer that of creating your own movements, right? Like you are what you believe, right? And that's just because I guess it would be if you really don't let everything negative hold you back, there's nothing but positive things that can happen. So when you have a belief system that things are always going to be well, then you just seem to always make everything well. Now I believe that there's energy and there's other things inside our whatever you want to call this, a matrix, our simulation or whatever. But there is ways to manifest. There are ways to make things happen, and that just comes down to focusing on something harder than something else, and creating the opportunities for that to help happen. Now, when you think of it that way, it really takes where luck is kind of like very far and few in between, because luck is what you create, right? So if you create your own luck, then you kind of control your destiny on that side.
It's
And
like people in stocks. Like when someone's like, "Oh, they got lucky. They got in early." It's like they didn't get lucky. They were prepared. They did their research. It's like your community. Your community should be forever grateful that you're on here live all the time, giving them the tips and tricks and being able to, because you guys are part of a community that where you're going to get the information faster than somebody else. And it's not luck. That's the right place. That's the right time. That's the right research. It's the right people around you.
right, and it comes down to your decision, right? I mean, this is all like, where do you decide what you're going to do, right? I mean, risk, you have to take risk in order to get lucky. I guess that's kind of like I think that's what people think luck is that you took risk and your risk paid off, right? But they don't look at how many risks you take that don't pay off, right? They just look at the time that you did win, but they don't realize how many times you took an L learning to take risk and trying to get where you're at. So when you have the time, I think we're in the time of history where everything is about to reverse and go the other direction. It's never been a better time to be prepared, or to be put your mindset in a way that is um, going in a good position, right? And I think that's why removing toxicity, and it's like sometimes it's harsh, but it's a reality. If you just have somebody in your life or people in your life that are just constantly just put negative energy in your life, you have to realize that even if it's not intentional, and it's just who they are, sometimes you need to say, hey, I gotta compartmentalize this over here for a while, because that just slows me down, right? So you've been doing your digital, getting into this new digital world, and pushing forward on that. So as people just in the real world, what are the tips and tricks, like when you check yourself and driving around? You're saying earlier, driving around, and sometimes you have to make sure that you're not cussing people out on the road, to make sure that you're not the negative one, right? And I think a lot of people don't realize that they might be negative, because what they'll say to themselves, like, man, it's just the truth, right? And they don't realize that what they're doing is actually projecting negative feelings onto people, and energy is very powerful in our life. And so what are some steps, Joe, that you look at? Like, say the guys going to barbecues this week, people talking to people. What are the ways to kind of say, all right, I'm going to find the negative people, and I'm going to deal with them in this way, and I'm going to move kind of in a better light for myself.
After you check yourself from the neck up, like, we all wake up and no one really wants to get up. But like, step one, like, how many times do you hit the snooze button before you actually get out of bed? Like when I wake up, like, yeah, there's times I don't want to get out of bed, but I literally swing my feet out of bed. I put my feet on the ground and I say two things: get excited. And the reason I say get excited is because I woke up. If I were to give you guys $10 million, how excited would you be? You'd be pumped up. That's some FU money, right? But if I told you that if you took the $10 million, you couldn't wake up the next day, would you still take it? And the answer should be no. I choose to live. And so what we find out is that we actually value waking up the next morning than we do over $10 million. But we also told ourselves that if we had $10 million, we'd be ecstatic and excited and everything would be great. But you just valued your life over $10 million. So why do we walk around dragging our feet, hanging our heads, saying wish and hoping and praying when there's a difference here. Here's a check, right? You either have an attitude of gratitude or you're entitled. That's it. If you're someone that's saying, "Oh, I deserve this, I need this, why me?" Well, you don't have an attitude of gratitude. You're entitled, and you got to switch that to being grateful.
Mm, that's. I think when you say it like that, it just reminds me of people that I listen to, right? And it's always what they deserve, right? And it's just a crazy way to say that, right? It's it really, I guess that's just how they feel, right? So they're just stuck in that momentum of what they deserve, what they should have, and what you owe them, right? And that's kind of like I think that's the to me it's like if you're around somebody that feels like any animosity or just kind of rubs your success or your let's just say your good attitude. Let's just say I think a lot of times if you come in places and you're happy, I'm seeing a lot of shows. I just saw a new Anne Hathaway show where she's on Netflix and she's like living her life, and one of the biggest lines in it is, "I didn't know my happiness would make so many people angry." And you know, and I think we're not really seeing that because it makes no sense to us to realize that your happiness angers everyone else, right? And we can't comprehend it because it makes no sense, right? We're like, okay, my happiness has angered you, and in our mind, there's if you're a person of good character and good person, you're just like, why? How does my happiness anger you, right? And it's such a weird philosophy, but the answer is something. So Joe, if somebody, if you like your sister, right? You buying a big house, getting where you're going, putting in 11 years of work. She's been doing the same thing, and then all of a sudden, after all this time, you have all this happiness, right? You're happy. You got a dog. You got your family. You got your house. You're driving cars. You're enjoying yourself. Does she feel like when you get around her, does it feel like your happiness is just something that she doesn't like rub her right? Is that something?
Yeah, it's the comment is, why are you always so excited? It's like, why not? Why not be excited? Like it's literally a choice. So I don't go and defriend my sister. I'm not saying, like earlier I said, you don't have to remove these people, but
Right.
when we're at the barbecue this weekend, like I'm just going to choose to spend my time engaging with somebody else. That's it. I'm going to spend my time having conversations with my brother-in-laws because they're both successful in what they do, and we think alike, and we think big, and we have goals that align. And I think that's where a lot of relationships go wrong. Is like when you see the divorce rate at 68%, almost 70%, which is absolutely crazy. The reason is you have two people that when they start off they're happy, right? But they have their each own independent goals in life. So through life, they're actually growing apart from each other versus you finding a common goal so that you and your significant other through the life, you guys are working towards something. And that's kind of like when we get in a room, when you go to a house party, like there is energy. Like you know what room you can open the door and like a couple's fighting in there. You just dang, it's awkward. I'm going down in the basement where the music's blasting. So you attract, likes attract. So when you find someone that thinks like you or thinks big like you, that's where you're going to want to spend your time.
And the weirdest thing is this, right? So the question is, because I was just talking to a bunch of people, it's so weird that this is kind of like a normal thing, right? So when you grow, so what would you say like? Um, so is your sister older or younger than you?
She's older.
Okay,
2 years.
2 years.
Yep.
So would you say when you were a kid growing up, she kind of looked out for you?
No, no.
No, she was never that person. And the reason why I ask is because we were looking at here's a scenario that happened, right? And this is a true story. And this was the answer to people who were angry about someone's happiness. And when I heard it, I'm like, how would you ever know that that's why, right? And here was the thing, right? So an individual goes along and kind of like, has a scenario where with the other people their entire life. They have a game together, play together. You got 17, 18 plus years, actually 27 years together, and their entire life has been about being together, gaming, hanging out, friendships, all these things. And they have special like inside jokes, and they have all these things that they have together. It's like family, right? These are family members. And the individual that had gone through a long 20 plus year struggle ends up finally getting out of the struggle and kind of like resets themselves and then finds a moment where they start to find happiness. And they're so excited that they found happiness that they share it with their family. And the family reacts in a way of, I don't want to say anger, because it's not anger, but in a way of disappointment. And it becomes where it becomes like just not happy for the person to be happy. And the after 2 years of going through the craziness, right? The answers finally came out because the answers were like, well, why, what's the problem with the happy? What was the issue? And as the family member said this, and it was the craziest thing, and it was multiple family members that said this. And they said, well, the problem was is that we've spent 20 some years together, and we have inside jokes, and we have all these things that we do that we laugh about. And then all of a sudden, because of this other thing that happened in your life, you seemed happier than you've ever been, which made us feel that we weren't good enough to make you happy. So they projected their I don't know if it's insecurity, their pain, or how they felt as anger, that the family member would finally be happy and have a level of happiness that they couldn't get with them, and they felt like somehow that was against them. And I'm like, how does that even make sense I mean, you see what I'm saying? Like, what do you?
It's the native state that people are just competitive. So even when you go to share your successes with other people, they might to your face be happy that you got the job or you got the raise or you're making more money than, but inside of their head, they're like, damn it, he got ahead of me. Like, and I love my dad, right? So I got fortunate enough that I was actually able to buy a house behind my own parents' house. And my dad comes to see the house for the first time, and as we're walking through it, he's like, so how does it feel to have a bigger house than your dad? And it was like, damn, like it took a lot for him to say that, but like he's 70 years old, so he's in this different state where he was than he was 20 years ago. But like that's damn, my son's doing better than I was. He's only 34 and I'm 70. And it was like, ugh. And I was like, you know what, Dad? It actually feels good because I inspired to be better than you. And I think that's our human nature is to be better than our mothers, be better than our fathers, and give a better life to your family and your friends. So I think it's distilled into us through competition.
Yeah, and I think also too, like you gotta be really careful with who you share your blessings with. Like if you know somebody's not, I don't want to say not doing well, but if you know they're insecure about themselves and I don't know, they're just competitive in general, I'm not going to be the person that's going to share, like, my blessings to them. Not like you have to damper yourself, like, you shouldn't have to damper yourself. You should be able to express yourself the way that you want. But I also have, like, a discernment in myself to where not everybody needs to know what you're doing. Not everybody needs to know your wins because you want to protect that. Everything is energy, and a lot of people like to siphon your energy, energy vampires. And the best way to protect that is to not put them in this situation where they can enter that in the first place.
Yeah, something I like to do in social settings because I don't like going around and boasting and like when I go to big social outings like this weekend, like I'm quiet, and a technique that I use is when someone else is talking and maybe I don't agree with it at all, I stroke their ego. I pump them up. Like I let you know what, if they're sharing this, like I want to make them feel good, because people never remember what you say, but they'll always remember how you make them feel. And if this world is what you put out is what you get back, I want to put out as much good and positivity as possible, because I know my time will come as well.
Right, right.
That is, that's a really good saying, right? They're never going to remember what you say; they just remember how you make them feel. And I think maybe that montage right there is something people should write on their mirror. Like every day you wake up, read that statement so that you can understand that it might not be you that's having the issues, but you need to understand how to maneuver through the waves or the sharks. Like think about this, right? Like you're swimming through the sharks. The last thing you want to do is be bleeding. So to eliminate the blood in the water, just make sure every time you engage with somebody, you use that very simple lesson, right? That is not what you're going to say, it's how you're going to make them feel. And if you think about that before you say something, then that will probably eliminate at least 50% of the problems that you have with people or their feelings or how they get the way they are, and etc. Because you never know how you make people feel, and it could be your own sister, your own mom, your own dad, and in the background, your cousins, your friends, your family that are like literally silently putting shade on you, and they don't realize that in the concept of the world we live in of energy and blessings and all these things, that they're actually putting curses, and they're trying to block your blessings. And when you allow them to be around your life, they what Marcy was saying, that they're energy vampires. They start to suck away your blessings, and they take from you because they need, right, because they have a hole in them. And when they suck all your blessings away, and then you feel like, man, I can't get anything done right now. And you realize that it's because you're stuck in this situation where you're you know dealing with their negativity, right? And I just thought it was so crazy, like when you become very successful, one things that you should do is actually um, you should just kind of like become the smallest person in the room, right? Because sharing success and sharing all those things, they're not always the greatest thing to do when the people around you feel, right? Remember the key word, feel differently about their current situations, right? And I was watching a post the other day. It was on Instagram. It was the craziest thing I've seen, but it all made sense. It came down to K Torres. It all came down to where they were like, what to do when you become financially successful. And one of them was, don't tell your kids, right? Like don't tell your kids that you're rich. And it's the funniest thing because I have 4 children myself, and I was literally just going over, like, in this day and time, teaching and educating kids from one generation to another was very hard. And I came from a generation where my television had 4 channels, right? We had a little spinner button. And now my kids, they grew up where iPads were invented, and they have access to all this information, right? And the way they feel is different than how I felt as a child, and the way I understand money and wealth is completely different than how they understand. And we're in this concept now that you have to really watch what you do. And when I watch that Instagram post about don't tell your kids you have money, it's like it's kind of weird that we're in a generation where you have to protect people's feelings. And what people have feelings about are the insecurities of their own life, right? And what is life right now? If you watch anything you're watching, it's about wealth, it's about showing off, it's about where you're eating, it's about all these things, right? And people, they have all their Instagram lives, et cetera, et cetera. And that's where people are hurt. They're hurt when it comes to money. Because if you have a lot of money, then why aren't you just giving it to them? because they're your kids, right? It's this entitlement, section that we're going into that's really crazy to me, that people just have great entitlement to, what you're supposed to, give them. Like one of my biggest fights is with my second daughter. She's like 28 years old, and her friend is 32 years old, and her father and mother ended up leaving a state and going to a retired state in Arizona, and they told their daughter at the time, I think she was 26, 24 or something like that. They said, hey, you can live in the house until we sell it. Just keep going to college. So the daughter literally just kept enrolling in college every year, taking very small classes that the father was paying for, because that way she didn't have to move out the house. And she did that for like 10 years. So he finally said, hey, I got to sell the house. It's been 10 years. But my daughter felt like I should have got her a house that she could have stayed in while she went to college, because because her friend got it, right? And she wanted to know why her friend had a father that was sending her, hundreds of dollars a week for food, even though she was 26 years old. Like, it's crazy. And I'm like, well, I mean, you know, it's funny how you can take one thing that you understand or see and decide that that one thing is reality, right? It's like, well, how many of your other 50 friends have a father that got him a house and give him $300 a week for food? None. But you want the lotto pick. You want that one person that gets it, right? And that's where it's just so amazing to me, like the ability to and be angry about it, right? To be mad, right? It's not that she wanted it; it's that after 10 years of not getting it, she was actually angry about it. Like it's like something that I was just like, what? It just didn't make sense. But when you have things or you do things, they calculate them, and you think that you're doing something, and you think that you're enjoying life. So even though I took her to concerts, and even though she's been to all time, taking her dinner all the time, taking her shopping, and done all these things, it wasn't what she wanted. It wasn't her ideal of what I should have been paying for. So all those other things I gave her were just things, right? I think she said it was, well, those are gifts, right? So it was just so blow me away, because I was just like, wow, when I was a kid, I was lucky to get a $50 pair of Nikes. Like shit. So
There's a huge lack of. I was in the people business for 11 years, and I worked with anyone from 18 to 36, 40 sometimes. There's a huge lack in accountability. So instead of what she's doing is blaming you versus asking herself, if she's 28 and not in a position to have her own place of living and not in a position to afford college, well, it's way easier when you can just blame yourself. Like, even in the craziest things, even if you had a boyfriend or girlfriend or husband or wife that cheated on you, why don't you just say it was your fault? When you really look at an argument, it doesn't end until someone admits that they were wrong. So when you start taking accountability for everything in your life, everything, like the boyfriend that cheated on you, well, maybe you should have listened more. Maybe he didn't want to go out all the time. He didn't want to do X, Y. If you just listened more, then you can take that accountability. And people, it's so much easier to blame someone else, but you never move on from it, because the ones that haven't moved on from the whore that hooked up with their boyfriend and thinks it's the whore's fault, they're still talking about the whore,
right.
versus just being able to move on from it and just own it, because every decision and every choice we all make has led us to the point in where we're at in our lives right now. And that's accountability, and that's extreme ownership.
And it takes a lot. It takes the releasing of the ego, and also letting your pride kind of like go down too. Because in order to take accountability, you have to like, again, like self talk, look into yourself, like, okay, maybe I did something wrong. But I think there's a lot of people that have too much pride to where there's no way I can do anything wrong. Everything else is other people. And especially with kids, like, especially like women, we learn a lot of that stuff from our mother. Like, if our mother doesn't take accountability, how is we as women going to take accountability? Because because we just see from what we learn. And we have a dynamic where the top of the chain, they don't even take accountability for themselves. It's hard to kind of break away, again, generational trauma, break away from what has been kind of set in place for you. So I think, I don't know, it takes a lot of ownership in the self. Like, I kind of like that argument, what you were saying, Joe, because a lot of people are in that kind of argument where they don't let things go. And the fact that they don't let it go now puts them in a situation where they don't take accountability. They stay stuck in kind of like a maze in themselves where they can't really grow and mature because they're still stuck in that mindset of how other people hurt them. When in reality, like, every situation, like, there's two sides, and there's always, even in shitty situations, there's always something to take out and learn from it, to build from it. Like, I don't agree with, some people say, well, some trauma doesn't do anything, like, some trauma just holds you back. And I think there's every situation, every possibility where you can take something and make it better. I'm not saying it's like gonna be the best pristine better, but it's better to do something about it than just to let it linger and keep you down.
I agree. Great stuff.
That and it's that's the you have I think getting a very clear. I think a lot of this, it seems like, the weirdest thing to me is like life is so complicated, but it's really simple, right? And I used this analogy back in the day when people used to tell me like, be like, man, it's crazy, and I'm like, well, listen, everything is real simple. It doesn't mean it's easy, right? Easy is where you can build something and you can just kind of wing it. You don't even need to look at the instructions, and you can just put it together and you're like, yeah, and it works, right? And then there's simple, right? Simple is where something is designed and it's created in such a great way, and they give you certain nuts, certain bolts, certain ways to put a nut and bolt, certain place to put a washer, and all these things. And you go out there and you put them any way you want because it's like, oh, this is real easy to do. And the difference is between easy and simple is that easy can be done and there's no pressure on it and it always works. It doesn't really matter. Simple is something that is easily done because there's instructions, there's a path, there's a plan, there's a way to do it. It's already been tested and it's already there for you. But if you don't follow the instructions to the T, it can become the worst nightmare of your life. And that's why when you hear people say, it was so simple, right? It's because it was simple, right? But you didn't follow the instructions, or you didn't follow the guide, or you didn't follow the signs, right? And that's why people are so confused on why life goes to shit so fast or why things got so bad, is because it was simple. And now that we're kind of like talking about it right now, it's like this new journey that we're on here is about, we're going to start doing a bunch of videos and creating things for, just self-help, because I think at the end of the day, there's plenty of opportunities now to make a lot of money, and plenty of opportunities to find happiness, and plenty of opportunities to fix your life and have a good life and enjoy life and go around the world. You can do it. Honestly, I've never been in a place where, life, you can do anything that you really want to do and you can actually do it. I mean, they can do anything you want to do. I mean, at the end of the day, I think in Tokyo or some China or something, or they're building this thing that goes way into outer space. It goes up, it goes down. You're really going to ride to outer space. You can do anything you want to be and do anything you want in this lifetime. And so there's really no time for excuses anymore. I think it just comes down to now, with all the technology and abilities to do things and to, really accomplish anything you want. I think it's the era and the time where we focus on the simple steps or the game plan, right? And this is kind of where astrology is a very big thing that I've been looking at, and very, you know, if you watch astrology or understand astrology, you know where you're at in a decade. You know what you're going to go through for 20 years. You know what you're going to see in 10 years. It's almost a way to tell the future. And now we're getting to the part where, with the ability to really dig in and different mindsets of it, you can really, life is like a roadmap. Like, if you really understood your signs and your destinies and little things that make you powerful and your energies, life is, the simulation or whatever you want to call it. There is a map, right? And it's literally in the stars, and it tells you how to, put yourself in the best situations to live a very simple life and keep things where you at least know that you're on the right track because things are falling into place. Like I always know when I'm doing something and I'm in the right place because it just lines up in certain ways and I can see these signs all the time and I'm like, I'm where I need to be. I'm right where I need to. This is going to happen. And that's something that right now with the ability to kind of look into astrology, that's why you guys are seeing a lot of people get into astrology because they finally realize there is a map, there is a game plan, right? There is a way to make my life easier, right? So Marcy, I know we do a lot of talking, and you were mentioning like sometimes you say stuff like I know you're just talking astrology, but to me, I've got so much background in kind of like what Joe has too, and this why getting Joe in here is interesting because we've been in the business of people, right? And the people business is such a crazy phenomenon that you deal with so many different personalities and you deal with different people and you deal with different attitudes and you deal with you know getting people out of bed and to get them excited and there's things that we call like we say when you're in management or professional settings, right, as a CEO, as a recruiter, as somebody who runs certain projects, your job is to motivate and dictate what they have to do. So, Joe, you got to run.
Yeah, yeah, I got someone knocking at the door, so I gotta get out of here soon. But if
So,
there's any last minute questions you guys need, you can let me know.
no, I feel like hopping on and getting to the next section because what I was going to say on Marcy's side, like she has the side where listening to the astrology, how she pieced it together. She was talking about like the best people to be managers, the best people to be leaders, the best people to do certain jobs, and I was like, man, if we would have known that 20 years ago, then I would have been recruiting just certain people. And I probably would have saved a lot of time dealing with different people's attitudes and working on that. But that's where I think down the road we're going to do some more videos and get everybody in here and kind of like go through the self help. But I will tell you, Joe, you need to go take a look at TAR's protocol, TAI, and I'll send you a pic here, man, because I just put it up at 12 cents. It's already at 14.
And I'll leave you guys with this too for everyone that's viewing. Like it's not your problems that make you special or unique in this world. It's the solutions to your problems. Everyone's got problems. What makes you special is you going out and making something happen. So I'll catch you guys next time. Marcy, it was good hanging out with you. Good information.
Nice
BC, I'll talk to you. All right, guys, take care. Comb your hair, change your underwear.
Yeah, tell Kelly I'm sending her a pic.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. She's go ahead.
She needs to go buy this. It's a long hold. So, and what we're saying there is just kind of like digging into where we need to go from here. And it's like, what's up, making money? It really comes down to, you know, understanding who you are, what your roadmap is, who should be around, who should deal with, who's the people that you can bring in and actually like, you know, last emperor, what's up, baby? And really kind of get yourself in a situation where your life can be in a better situation, right? So when we talk about that, Marcy, um, kind of give me an example of like for management or people that are, if I said to you, let's say if I was um, just kind of like starting, what's the easiest way for me? Let's say I just want to figure out a simple way to look at my map, right? I just want to nothing crazy. I just want to go, okay, how do I start where I can understand, where I can at least learn to make better decisions in my life?
Well, like the birth chart is like really cool tool, like where it lists like all your planets. So you have all the planets like in astrology, like your, not Earth in astrology, but you have Mars, Jupiter, Saturn, like pretty much the same planets. So in this chart, you have all these planets, and they can be in different signs, and then it can be in different houses. So So a lot of people they'll have signs and planets kind of like all over different signs. There's some people where their chart is pretty much like three signs, like all of their planets are really in a cluster of signs. So there's a cluster of your energy in one place. So that can really be informative to know like where most of your energy lies. Like that's the best way I can describe it in your birth chart. Like it's a cool map. So like for me, example, in my chart, I have like 5 planets in one sign. So that means that I have a lot of my planets concentrated in the same energy. So looking at that, I can make decisions on like where I want to put my energy because I have a load of energy in one thing, and I would like to do something in that kind of sign, characteristics type thing. So I mean, it's hard to kind of describe it without like having it, in front of me, like to show.
Mm-hmm.
But it's a super cool tool, and there's houses too where different houses rule over each sign. So there's 12 signs, 12 houses. So in terms of like, okay, let's say you're building a business, I would, in people don't have charts. You can do charts of places. You can do charts of businesses. Like each city has its own chart. The Declaration of Independence that has its own chart. So in terms of a business, I would first decipher, okay, what do I want the business built on? What energy? And then I can make decisions on, okay, for the employees, the people that I want in my business, I want it to, coincide or have the same energy as what I want my business to be about.
Okay, so this is all birth chart.
Yes, astrology.
Okay. So that's where people should start. So what is the so what we have to do here is like we'll have to kind of like come in and do breakdowns of like, all right, how do you jump yourself into a basic chart? Give me 1 second. Shout out to Tommy Lee. Tommy, you talking about Turbo? Is this Turbo right here, bro? So we got a shout out for Turbo. And Turbo has a very simple thing. Yo, what's up, fam? Give me 1 sec, big dog. You're in my ear, brother. Yeah, went great. Nothing. Yeah, perfect. Yeah, yeah, that's fine. I'm on the phone, guys. Give me 1 sec. Yeah, yeah, yeah. That'll work. I gotta grab some. When you going back up there? Yeah. All right, I'm gonna swing by. I'm literally 10 minutes down the street. Right here on Alpha. All right. All right, guys, we're gonna hop offline here. I gotta make a run. We're gonna come back. We're gonna make how's Crypto Hot doing? Crypto Noob. I'm gonna be back on tonight, guys. Stay focused. I gotta run and go take care of some business. Hey, Nietzsche, what up, baby? Guys, I'll be going live in about an hour, guys. Appreciate you. Let me get out of here real quick. And that's